What's up? It's Brian Soscia here on the Soscia Network. And if you want to hit me on Twitter, too, before I even start, at the TheBrian Soscia. I love talking like wrestling and just, communicating, chatting with the fans. So just hit me up. Today's going to be awesome. I get all kinds of WWE guys call in. They stop in. They give me all this exclusives with WWE. But there's a guy on the phone now. I got to say, I kind of consider us friends because we've talked on Facebook and Twitter so much. The author, best-selling author, I should say, of everything from the WWE Encyclopedia to, I think your original was WWE Legends, Main Event in the Raging 80s. It's such a pleasure to have you on here. Brian Shields, how are you, bud?
Brian, listen, man, I got to tell you, I'm doing great. Thank you. It is so great to be here. Thank you for having me. I've really admired the work you've been doing for a long time, so to be actually now a guest on the show and added to this list that you've had is just awesome.
Yeah, you admire the work I've done. You've done some really great stuff yourself, man. The work you've done, I mean, it's been amazing. I just want to start. There's so much stuff you've done, but let's just start with your big, I would call it your stairway to heaven, I guess, your best-selling thing. It's the thing that you're probably the most known for, maybe. The WWE Encyclopedia, which had to be a huge undertaking, right?
Yeah, I have to tell you, man, I mean, that was really a dream come true. I mean, to be able to work with WWE and DK Publishing and the co-author, Kevin Sullivan, for your listeners, not the Taskmaster.
Hold on, Brian, hold on. You beat me to it already because I was going to ask that. It's so funny because every time I see the name Kevin Sullivan, I think of the Taskmaster. I think of Kevin Sullivan from Florida from back in the day, and I'm sure he gets that all the time too. But I think there was a Kevin Sullivan that worked not in the ring, but that worked for WWE or maybe WCW in production. Is that the same guy?
There was the Kevin Sullivan that co-wrote the books, the encyclopedias with me, was a WWE employee. He's done a lot of great things. He helped launch the original WWE.com website. He's done stuff for the magazine. So yeah, I mean, he's just fantastic. I mean, the quintessential tag team partner for a book the size of the first encyclopedia. The thing about that book is it was the first ever official written record on the history of the company. So, you're going back from 1963 to, at the time, the end of 2008. So, it weighs over 5 pounds. It's a coffee table book. It's over 365 pages. Oh. There are thousands of photos, thousands of entries. So, that was really, that book, being a part of that has really changed everything for me.
Dude, I'm sure it has. And here's the thing. With that book, like you said, jam-packed with so much just pure knowledge. And you said you came into this, it was a dream gig for you, being a fan. But how long have you been a fan of WWE or wrestling in general?
Practically my whole life. I saw, I grew up on Long Island, a kid of the 80s. So, with cable television and the Hulkamania boom going on, I saw it originally on WOR Channel 9. And it was actually around like 83, 84, wow, before Hulk Hogan won the belt. And, I just never stopped watching. So I've been a fan now, 30 years of the genre in general. WWE is very near and dear to my heart. And that was always my favorite company. So as a fan, I'm glad that they ended up, quote unquote, winning. But growing up, I watched anything and everything I could get my hands on. I still have a lot of my old magazines from WWE and Pro Wrestling Illustrated and George Napolitano's Main Event. Anything that I could get my hands on and watch or read or listen to, I just wanted it.
And I'm sure, because it comes out in the book, and you say about WCW and WWE, how WWE won the war. I can relate as well, because growing up, in the area we grew up, I'm from Philadelphia area, WWE was always the company, and WCW was there. They were good, but even when they were on top, I felt like this connection to WWE, like I didn't mind WCW. I enjoyed it. I loved it. But I was always pulling for WWE. Come on, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's funny. A lot of people talk about that, and I just love I love talking to people about this. I mean, especially, the state of Pennsylvania has such an incredible history, with wrestling, with WWE, and especially Philadelphia. I mean, it's funny, a lot of people don't realize this, but the first WWE championship to change hands outside of New York happened in Philadelphia at the old arena. I think it was called the Ice Palace or Auditorium, when Stan Stasiak beat Pedro Morales in 1973. So, I mean, that was the first. So that gives you an idea of how important the city of Philadelphia was at that time to WWE. And it still is today. I mean, all the great events at the Spectrum, the great events that have been going on since then. WrestleMania 15 was in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And now today, all the great, Raw, SmackDown, the pay-per-views. So, I mean, there's just so many great things about the city and WWE together. But I'm with you. Being here in New York was the same. I mean, WCW, they were on top. I think it was 82 straight weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I enjoyed it, but I was just like, rooting for WWE to come back.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you talk about the title history. If you get down to it and you think about it, not only you have the world title, but you have, I think in the 70s, there's a lot of tag team title changes in Philadelphia. And, not even just for WWE, but for wrestling in general. I mean, ECW, before that, if you know TWA, which was like the thing that kind of sort of jump-started ECW. And even around Philadelphia, you had Allentown area was big, the Hamburg Fieldhouse, you know what I mean? It's definitely a huge part of WWE's history. And I'm really glad that you wrote the WWE Encyclopedia or co-authored it with Kevin Sullivan because, like you said, there's so much stuff that happened, but it needed to be put down. Now, when you were going through the book and being a fan and putting it together, was there anybody in the book that you never knew existed? Like that you were like, who the heck? Like maybe you never heard of. Who's this dude?
There definitely were some superstars from the 1960s that that I just never heard of. And the one that comes to mind right away, and he was kind of a journeyman, but I just love the name, the Magnificent Maurice.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the book, and I think I read of him in the archive somewhere of his results being around. But that is funny. That's like a random guy who you wouldn't even think. But, these guys worked hard. They should get their due, and now they'll be in history forever, and that's got to be a good feeling for you as a fan as well. But I wonder, too, it's like there's so much stuff. I mean, I'm a huge fan. You're a huge fan. Even if we put our heads together, there's stuff I'd be afraid I'd leave out of the book. So describe like the process of putting the book together. Like, for instance, does WWE have almost an archive they let you look through? Did you get a secret museum they have, or like somewhere maybe in Vince's basement you got to go? What was the deal?
I have to tell you that the process of putting the book together was just incredible. Just awesome. WWE has archives between photos and videos that go back to the early days of the company when Vince McMahon, commonly known as Vince Sr., at the time did the unthinkable and broke away from the NWA and formed the then WWF. So, you're looking at magazines, programs, video reels, photos, and then, WWE has a great relationship with Pro Wrestling Illustrated. So, their photo library goes back to the early 1900s. And, the access that they give you, if you need it, is there. And that is something that you really can't describe. I mean, our process was we were having weekly brainstorming calls, myself, Kevin Sullivan, the editor on the book, Ken Schmidt, the different ideas, what we wanted in the book, the tone of the book, the style. DK Publishing has a great history of creating these beautiful collector-type coffee table books. So it was really a great meeting of two great companies working together as far as the WWE and having their history put together by DK. So it was constant. I mean, we worked on the book for about a year and a half putting it together. And we had weekly conference calls for a good portion of that timeline.
So when you were doing all this, first of all, I'm telling you from a wrestling fan's perspective, and you know this as well as I do, not many people get the kind of access you probably had. That's like a dream for a lot of people. They would give you anything you wanted, which is cool, but was Vince looking over your shoulder? Did you ever get to meet Vince? Has he seen the book? Has he commented on the book to you? Have you had an interaction with him? What was that like?
He was not looking over our shoulder. In general, and this is one of the nice things about working with WWE and DK, is it's a very collaborative environment, and you're really once the direction is agreed upon by everyone, you're really given a lot of creative freedom. So it was not something like, because I've done projects like that where, you almost feel like, someone's standing over your shoulder from the moment you wake up in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
This was not like that at all. It was great fun. I mean, it was hard work, but, like you can relate to as well, it was really a labor of love for everyone involved. So I did get the chance to meet Vince McMahon and his wife, Linda. There was a special meeting before WrestleMania 25 in Houston. Mm-hmm. And the book was out, I think, about a month before that, or a few weeks before that time. And I got a chance to meet both of them, and they could not have been nicer. They were thrilled with how the book came out, which was also very good for me in terms of just self-preservation. I wrote both of their entries.
Oh, wow.
So I was very happy when they told me that they were, happy with how everything came out and their stuff in particular. So, and it was one of those things too, where I remember he said, Vince McMahon said, just how happy he was about everything and very appreciative of the work that we did, and he said, if we ever needed anything, just to call. And, I never thought as a kid, watching Superstars of Wrestling, or Saturday Night's Main Event, that one day that meeting would happen, or like something like that would be said to me.
No, that's again another dream for a wrestling fan that wants to continue on and get involved a little bit or a lot of bit, with what you're doing. After you met Vince and all that stuff, and you're looking at all the body of work you've put into this book, and you put it together, you're thinking, all this stuff you've seen, and you got to go through the archives, and you got to see what, as a fan, you remembered, but stuff maybe you'd forgotten. Is there anything that might kind of jump out from putting together all these books and doing work with WWE that isn't in the product today that you wish were still in the product, or maybe something we're lacking a little bit? And just your thought.
As a fan, there are a couple of things that I miss. I understand that, because I'm a professional sports fan as well, and I'm a huge fan of music and movies, so a lot of different areas of arts and entertainment. Things evolve. There are a couple of things that I do miss. I miss managers being an integral part of the product. I still think today, and I know some people disagree, but I still think today, if the pairing is correct, that a manager being part of a superstar's career can really be great. And I've always been a huge fan of tag team wrestling.
Oh yeah.
So I do miss having a really strong competitive tag team division where they had, during the Hulkamania era, during the Attitude Era. I'm very happy that the Shield, which is one of my favorite, recent factions, I'm very happy that they have the belt. I thought Team Hell No did a great job as well. So those are the two things for me that I really do hope to see more of down the road.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But, I mean, I agree with you. And I think that managerial-wise, look, I've been saying this for years. Now with Heyman and stuff back, you're seeing them kind of in the fold, and he's so good at what he does on screen as a character. But I always thought, like, if they're worried about managers not fitting into the current product, why not do something updated? Call them agents. You know what I mean? Something like that. There's always a way to make it work. They just have to find that way. And it looks like they're starting to. And I'm excited about that myself. Same with tag teams. I mean, what do you think was the major downfall of tag team wrestling? A lot of people say different things. Some people will say Eric Bischoff didn't like tag team wrestling. I believe there was a quote floating around that he was going to eliminate it. What do you think was the downfall? When do you think it kind of just fizzled out? And I will say they're doing a good job with trying to bring it back.
Well, I think one of the things was just there was such an emphasis on the championship, whether, like being the guy. And I think the way that things progressed as an industry, the singles championships really became even greater prizes than they were in the past. And I think, when there's a team, you have to have the time to showcase both of them, both members of the team. And I think the other thing too is just the cost of doing business, quote unquote, is greater now than it's ever been. So, to me, if there's now limited spots on a roster with limited television time, how many things can you really fit into a program every week? So those are a few of the things that I think may have contributed to it. I don't know for sure, but as a fan, it's something that I miss in terms of that real hot competitive division.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think WWE has done a nice job the last couple of years of trying to bring it back.
No, I think so too, and everything runs in cycles. So I think it will start coming back a little more. But I want to add to what you're saying about a downfall. I think a downfall too, and they're kind of still doing this, but wrestling in general was doing this. It was like they went from having real tag teams to people they would just throw together two singles guys who didn't have matching outfits, they just didn't have anything else to do, so they put them together or they wanted to start some kind of storyline, and that was that. But I miss it too, because tag team wrestling is a whole nother animal. It's wrestling's a variety show, as they say, and it's a whole nother way to showcase people and what they have, and they can make money, and I think they're starting to see that.
Well, and one of the other things about tag teams too that I found interesting, and this kind of adds to why I'd really like to see them come back, is because if you look at the main event talent in this industry over, let's just say, 50 years, many of the top stars at one point had significant runs in tag teams.
But hold on, Brian. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to make it clear. They were a tag team. It wasn't two guys who got thrown together. They were a real team. They weren't even known as singles guys.
Right.
Yeah. So it's definitely a launching pad.
So that's the thing for me. I mean, you think back to even like, Bruno Sammartino. I mean, he had tag team title runs. I mean, he was a part of some very successful tag team combinations. I mean, there aren't the guys that I could think of off the top of my head right now that were not part of real tag teams, as we're talking about, were, Hulk Hogan and The Rock. I mean, if you think about Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, so many of the talent, came or had a big part of their career early on as part of tag teams.
No, yeah, the list could go on and on with those guys. I agree 1,000% with what you're saying. And, I mean, you look at guys, too. If you go back to people that were real tag teams, not just thrown together, a couple years ago, the Basham brothers. It's guys like that where, yeah, they had a nice little run, but, I mean, do you think, like, I like the armchair quarterback. That's what a lot of fans like to do. But think how great they could have been with, first of all, paint needs to come back in wrestling on the faces. They could have done like a Demolition-esque gimmick with those guys, and that could have maybe extended their career a couple years in WWE. I mean, who knows?
Absolutely. That's a very cool idea, actually. And I liked their work. I thought they were very good. I think the timing for them, because timing is a big part of it too, I think. And I think the time where they were really coming up and getting on television, that mid-2000s, was really when it just wasn't that just wasn't a real big part of the product.
No, and you almost feel for guys like that. You're like, oh man,
Yeah.
timing's everything though. You hear it nonstop in a lot of different industries. It's timing, right place, right time, plus talent. That helps too. As we talk about your fandom, and obviously you're showing your knowledge and just knowing the industry well. What do you think was? This is like picking, I'm sure, your favorite child. What was one of your favorite gimmicks, like that you maybe just were like, this is my favorite guy growing up, you know?
Oh, sure. Well, first off, I was a shirt-tearing Hulkamaniac like it was nobody's business.
Yeah.
Huge Hulkamaniac. I also loved, a lot of the high flyers. I loved Jimmy Superfly Snuka. The British Bulldogs are one of my favorite all-time tag teams. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I loved steel cage matches. And I loved, the first Survivor Series and Royal Rumbles were fantastic. If I could step into a non-WWE ring quickly, if I may, I loved the War Games.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people did. That was great.
So, so there were just so many different parts of wrestling that I really, really loved. And growing up during that time too, it was awesome seeing and this is something else that I should have included. I apologize, but I really missed for a while those long reigning champions.
Oh yeah.
And I remember here in New York when Hulk Hogan lost the title to Andre the Giant under incredibly controversial circumstances, I might add.
Look, you're still being a Hulkamaniac, Brian. Brian, you're still defending Hogan.
I mean, that made eyewitness news on Channel 7 here in New York. That was a huge deal.
No, it was, yeah. And like I said, though, you're still showing your inner Hulkamaniac as you defend the Hulkster, saying that extremely. Look at you.
Right.
Like a kid again. But no, that I do remember that as well. That was a huge deal because the titles, not that they don't mean anything now, they still mean something. And I believe that. I believe to children and stuff, they still mean something. I think they're doing a great job with making them mean something. But when we got into the Attitude Era and all, it was just every other day they were switching. And that's how that time frame worked. But now, as we're heading into the new time frame, I think they're doing a pretty good job at starting to try to make titles mean something.
I agree. And I think you have to give a huge hats off to CM Punk, who has for a very long time been one of my favorite competitors, but especially over the last 2 to 3 years. His work has just been phenomenal. And, his 434-day title reign, I think, is one of the most impressive things that we've seen in WWE over the last 10 years. And I think WWE did a great job in giving him that opportunity, and he just made the most of it. And again, that long championship reign. So, to bring that back, those were the things during that time as a kid growing up that I really did love. But I got to tell you, man, those steel cage matches were just, that was like the end all be all. If that's what we really felt at that time as fans.
Yeah, and that's a big part of being a fan, that feeling, that just, I think that, I don't know if Vince McMahon said this or maybe it's coming out of my head, that fans go to a wrestling show for that moment. They want to feel that moment. They want to be part of history. Like here in Philadelphia, if the Phillies win the World Series, the fans feel that moment. In wrestling, they want to go to WrestleMania and they say, I was there when this happened. That means a lot to the fans. And I think that's what wrestling does. They kind of put a feeling out there, and it can't be matched. Some of my best memories as a kid were those feelings you got, even in house shows, those feelings you got. Because you're a kid, you're excited anyway. And on top of that, your favorite guys, and they're doing something historical, and you're part of a moment,
Oh, it was incredible. And one of the things too, the Spectrum was just such a special place.
Oh, yeah.
that I realized that, as a kid watching, the Coliseum home videos and reading and learning about the city of Philadelphia was, there were great battle royals, great steel cage matches. People talk a lot about Superfly Snuka, diving off the cage onto Morocco at the Garden. he actually did that as a bad guy against Backlund and
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah, I remember that.
And there were some great matches there, and I'm even remembering now, like the Spectrum logo would be in the center of the ring.
Yep. Wow, I mean, you have a good memory.
And they were really cool. One of the other things I loved, I guess a precursor to the Survivor Series, was the elimination matches. And it was almost like you felt like these guys are a team, like they're friends. And, the bad guys are going to get it tonight because these guys are like a team together and, that kind of stuff. So it was really...
Yeah, hold on, Brian, hold on. I don't mean to interrupt. I don't mean to interrupt, but the camaraderie, that's another thing. I didn't think about that until you just said it. I don't know if it's because I'm older or what, but I felt like when those guys teamed up, there was more of a camaraderie. But I think that's just because everything moves so fast, not just in wrestling, but in today's world, there's not as much time to invest in that camaraderie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it really was like, it felt like the end of the world, when Mr. Wonderful, or obviously Andre was the big one, turning on the Hulkster, and then later Macho Man. It was a huge thing, and I think even what made those team events so special was that there really was this feeling like, okay, these are the good guys, and they're like friend. Being a child, it's like, okay, they're friends outside the ring. And now they're like joining forces to rid the arena that night of the evildoers.
100%, man. No wonder you're the guy that wrote this book and works with WWE. I mean, everything you're saying is spot on. I kind of want to shift for a second, though.
Sure.
You did send me a copy. Now, there's two WWE encyclopedias. There was the first one, and then there was the updated one. You sent me a copy and autographed it, by the way. Thank you. It was very nice of you to do that, of the WWE, the most recent encyclopedia. And I got to be honest with you, I did page through it, and I've looked through them before. I looked through the original. The one thing I don't really remember, to be honest, and I don't remember even thinking about it, just hit me now when we were talking about the British Bulldogs a couple minutes ago, because I think Dynamite Kid, I think Chris Benoit, and that's a touchy subject, I know, but was he in the encyclopedia, or were you told that maybe it's not the best idea?
We were not told that. He is in the encyclopedia. I wrote his entry, and Brian, the way that was handled was just very, very respectfully, very delicately, because the encyclopedia celebrates the history of WWE, and Chris Benoit was someone that performed in the company and for most of his time at a very high level. So to be historically accurate and just to be historically accurate, he needed to be in there. So
Agreed.
And that's a question that I do get a lot, and it makes complete sense as to why. But yeah, the way that was handled was, I would like to think respectfully and properly. And that was one of the things too. He was one of my favorite performers dating back to, the original ECW, and, we were talking about timing before, with the internet, really booming in the mid and late 90s, and the tape trading, and, my wrestling VHS collection just went through the roof, and, with so many great things from the original ECW and Japan, so he was somebody that very early on was one of my favorite performers. So, it was something that was a challenge to write, but it was one of those things where it was part of the job.
Yeah, I think that I believe it was Jericho, when I spoke to him, he said it best, that, and I think he said this in other interviews too, the Benoit that did the unthinkable, did what he did, was a different guy than a lot of people knew. Like, that wasn't his friend. So I think you're right. To be historically accurate, you had to do that. But moving on from Benoit, there's a lot of stuff that I want to ask you. God, we've been talking for a while now, and I appreciate all your time, but you're a guy that is extremely knowledgeable. So I hate to put you on the spot, but I'd like you to throw some predictions out here of guys you think that have that factor, the it factor as they call it, that are going to we'll see big things out of. I can start you off. I can give you one. And because I loved him as Husky Harris, and I love what he's doing now, Bray Wyatt. I think that guy, for a big man, can really move. I think he knows what he's doing as far as character and everything like that. And I think this guy has got a lot to give to wrestling. I'm very excited to see what he does.
I agree. I mean, he's another competitor where, I mean, he's a third generation superstar. So, I mean, the way that he moves in the ring, and I think you get to feel, especially with the recent promos airing on his family, quote unquote, he's incredibly comfortable in the ring and out of the ring in front of the camera. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, we talked a little bit about CM Punk, who has just been a huge superstar over the last couple of years. Dolph Ziggler, Daniel Bryan. I mean, I think these are guys that for years have been doing incredible work, and they're just starting to really hit their stride in terms of breakthrough superstardom. I'm very excited. I thought the Curtis Axel introduction was great. I love the theme music, and he's somebody that I'm really looking forward to seeing for a long time in a lot of great matches.
Right, hold on. Curtis Axel, who I am a fan, I've liked him for a while, too. I think he has something to offer. But do you think, I mean, his theme music, kind of updated version of his father's theme music, I know Curtis Axel, the name and all, is paying homage to his family. I had a friend tell me this, and I can't say I agree 100%, but I agree a lot. I feel like comparing him to his father, just because his father was so good, no knock on Curtis Axel, is almost a disservice. And he can say that, but they should kind of stay away from that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that, and I think we've seen this across a lot of different areas of sport and entertainment. It's very difficult to be a daughter or a son and have a famous parent because the comparisons are constant. I mean, you think about what Dustin Rhodes had to do to really become known and properly appreciated as a gifted athlete and performer. So, I think I think that WWE did it perfectly, and that's no pun intended there. I promise.
That was great, though. No wonder you're a writer.
Thank you. The way that they did it, where they acknowledged it, they acknowledged on TV that, okay, you've seen this person before. This is who he is now. This is why, and this is why he's going to be one of the biggest stars in the foreseeable future. I thought it was done really, really well. And, I mean, time will tell, but I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Me too. I've been waiting for that guy to break out too. I just think, and it's so crazy, but when you look at him, almost, now that I'm thinking about it, you almost have to acknowledge his father, because, I mean, he looks almost exactly like him in the facial expression. It's insane. The first time I saw him, he was wearing that.
It really is. I mean, and I think there's going to be some similarities in terms of, what you see inside the ring, but, it's not like he's coming out with the double singlet and the towel and slapping his gum. And, I mean, if that was the route, I wouldn't probably feel as good about it.
Yeah.
But I really feel like WWE just did an incredible job of acknowledging it, explaining it so that everything makes sense. And now, now giving him the opportunity to really run with it.
No, definitely. Well, I appreciate those predictions for the future, because it's kind of crazy. We're like, have some strange kinship here, because I feel the almost exact same way about everything you said there. I don't want to blow something for you here, but this is something I believe we're talking about different wrestlers' sons and all. I interviewed Cody Rhodes a while ago, and actually, one of my things was when I interviewed him to not really mention his father at all. I figure everybody asked that poor guy that same question. Let's give him an interview where it focuses on him, and I think he really appreciated that. But during the interview, Cody, who I think has a bright future, I think he's great, he said that excuse me, I asked him, I believe it was this interview, I asked him about the possibility, and I can't understand why WWE has never done this. Why is there not a rule book or some kind of program at the shows they can make, that they can put out there, sell for $10, $15 at a show, and, kids can get it autographed and stuff? I think that'd be a huge seller. Is there any interest? Can you let us have a scoop here that you might be involved in writing some type of rule book for WWE?
I cannot give you that scoop because I don't have it.
Oh, well, you should get it.
That's definitely a great idea. I don't know what else is in the works. You definitely never know with WWE.
Anything can happen in the WWE, Brian.
Yeah, and actually, you did a great help to me in mentioning Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow are two of my other current favorites. I love them as a team. We were talking before about, having a name and coming out and really having that continuity. I think they're awesome. I'm really looking forward to more of their tag team work, but also them as single stars. And I really would like to see Ted DiBiase more on TV. And of course, Randy Orton is another one where, when you look at him, you don't, sometimes I'm watching Raw and I say to myself, this guy's been around more than 10 years. But, I feel like he still has a bright future ahead of him as well.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's very talented at what he does. And, you're talking about all this stuff. I mean, there's so much that we could get to here, but I do want to let you go, and I'm definitely going to have you on another time. But before I let you go, a couple things. One, I just want to talk quickly about how you're going to be providing, and you do it around, the history of WWE. You'll be doing that Saturday, July 12th, 11 o'clock for the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, Dan Gable Museum. I mean, what is a WWE history of WWE talk concern? Tell me how it goes. Do you just sit up there and talk? Do you take questions?
This has been an incredible honor for me to be able to do. I've been doing these now about 3.5 years. These are multimedia presentations where I have, I use PowerPoint and video footage to take people on a ride through time. I do a decade-by-decade overview of the history of WWE. And then after that, there is a Q&A session. And then depending on the venue, sometimes there's a book sale signing portion of it. But there's always a part afterwards where, there's a meet and greet part. We take pictures. And this has really been a lot of fun for me. This is something that I've been doing in the New York City area. And this year, 2013, I'm taking it, quote unquote, on the road. So there are a lot of cities that I'm in talks with now to bring this presentation, to their city. But the event in Waterloo is just going to be a huge honor for me. The Tragos Fez Hall of Fame and Dan Gable Museum. I mean, Brian, this year they're inducting Nature Boy Ric Flair, Cowboy Bill Watts, Chris Taylor, Edge, Jim Brunzell, Matt Hughes, and, one of the best photo journalists, George Napolitano. So for me to be a part of this weekend is just going to be a huge thing for me, and I do need to thank Kyle Klingman at the Museum and Hall of Fame and my friend Bill Apter for making it possible for me. So, it's going to be a great weekend, and I can't wait to see the fans there.
No, it's going to be awesome, and you might even see some of the top talent. They might want to come and watch too. So I don't think you're a guy that'll be all nerved out about it, but I think you just do what you do and you talk how you talk, and I think they'll love it. Is there any shot of anything coming to Philadelphia with History of WWE Talk? Because I know we'd love that.
I hope so. I've been in discussions with a couple of different schools in Philadelphia and the big library there in the city. So there are definitely conversations going on right now that hopefully by the end of the year that will happen, and I hope that you'll be able to be there as well.
Don't even question it. There's no doubt about it. I'll be there. I think it will be phenomenal to just see you at work and doing this type of thing, because your books are great. You've done so much. Before we get out of here, Bri, let's see. I just want to quickly touch on, you've been a part of, so everyone knows, Legends of Wrestling game that came out, WWF Warzone, WWF Attitude video games, all this stuff. WWE Legends program, you're helping out with that. Now, I need the listeners, because you're a guy that loves to talk wrestling, and everything you've done, you deserve to talk it and let people, just conversate with you. So where can people reach out to you? On Twitter, Facebook? What's the best places?
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, the best places for people to reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I'm just, the page is my name, Brian Shields, and then on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @MightyPen_sword, and that's actually the company that I have. Unfortunately for me, Brian Shields is a very common name, so it wasn't available on Twitter. But yeah, @MightyPen_sword, and then they could reach out to me on Facebook. I do a lot of stuff on there where I'm posting, I'm interacting with the fans, and it's just been a lot of fun.
No, yeah, and it's cool to see a guy who's a fan, because a lot of times you have people writing books, doing things that aren't fans, whether it be wrestling or what else. They're just in the business of writing or whatever, and they don't have a clue. So it means more to me personally. I'll tell you that you're a fan, and you can pour your love of it, and it totally shows, man. So everybody just be sure to pick up, all the books you've written, including your first one, I think it was, you did, Main Event WWE in the Raging 80s, and also the WWE Encyclopedias, because, they really, truly are the ultimate guide. It says definitive guide. They are. That's what it is. If you've never seen one of these things, I'm not even overselling this. They're incredible. And they're really good, may I add, too. If you're going to conventions or you're meeting wrestlers, you can take it with you, because almost everyone there can sign a page. It's a good autograph thing, too, to have.
Well, you hit all the points better than I could have. I'm not going to disagree with you. But it really is, Brian. It's great to be on this show. Thank you so much for having me. And, and to be really, just to be a small part of what the WWE is offering to its fans, and thanks to DK as well. It's been great. So I'm hoping that there'll be more stuff to come, and, hopefully we'll get to meet in person in Philadelphia and do a proper Mega Powers handshake.
I got to check with the crowd first, man. I don't get booted in the stomach or anything. You can follow me on Twitter @THE Brian Soscia, Soscia, and we'll chat more there. And, I appreciate it again, man.
Thank you.